Good evening once again, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. And welcome back to part 2 of the week that was for week number 13. We'll be taking a look at the Sunday afternoon games, including the 49ers and Eagles in the rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. We'll also take a look at Sunday Night Football with the Chiefs and the Packers, and Monday Night Football with the Bengals and the Jaguars. Also coming up, my Week 14 power rankings and the updated playoff standings in the NFL entering week number 14. So at that, let's continue the week that was, week 13 edition, with the 3 late games from Sunday, starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hanging on against the Carolina Panthers 21-18. The loss officially eliminates the Panthers from playoff contention. All right, let's look at individual numbers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll start with Baker Mayfield, 14 of 29, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 68.5. Rachaad White, he's the running back for the Bucs. He was the leading rusher at 20 rushes, 84 yards, and a touchdown at 4.2 yards per run. Scotland, 1 rush, 19 yards, and a touchdown. Palmer, 1 rush, 13 yards. Edmonds, 2 for 7 yards on 3.5 yards per run. Same with Tompkins. Baker Mayfield, 2 rushes for -2 yards. Leading receivers for Tampa include Mike Evans, 7 catches, 162, and a touchdown on 12 targets at 23.1 yards per catch. Rachaad White, 3 for 22 yards, 5 targets, 7.3 yards per catch. Palmer, 2 for 12 yards on 5 targets, 6 yards a catch. Tompkins, 1 catch, 4 yards on 1 target. Edmonds, 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 target. Chris Godwin was targeted 3 times, but no catches. No field goals attempted for Chase McLaughlin, but he was 3 for 3 on extra points. Camarda, 8 punts, averaging 46.1 yards a punt. Longest was 61, but 1 touchback and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Antoine Winfield Jr. had 6 tackles, 1 sack, 3 passes defensed, and 1 interception to lead the Tampa Bay defense. Russell had 6 tackles and a sack. Eisen, 5 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Carlton Davis, 4 tackles. Neal had 4 tackles. Diaby had 3 tackles and a sack. McCollum, 3 tackles. Nelson and Delaney each had 2 tackles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Meanwhile, for the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, 15 of 31, 178 yards. No touchdowns, 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 52.9. The leading rusher for the Carolina Panthers is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba, 25 rushes for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4.2 yards per run. Miles Sanders, 8 for 23 on 2.9. Blackshear, 1 rush, 6 yards. Bryce Young, 1 rush for -11. All right, Mingo was the leading receiver for the Panthers. 6 catches, 69 yards on 10 targets at 11.5 yards per catch. DJ Chark, 3 catches, 56 yards on 4 targets, 18.7 yards per catch. Adam Thielen, 3 grabs, 25 yards, 6 targets, 8.3 yards per catch. Sullivan, 1 catch for 16 yards on 2 targets. Sanders, 1 catch, 6 yards on 2 targets. Thomas, 1 catch, 6 yards on 1 target. Strachan was targeted once but didn't make any catches. Aniero, 1 for 1 on field goals. His only attempt was from 23 yards and 1 for 1 on extra points. Johnny Hecker, 8 punts, averaging 45.9 yards per punt. Longest is 57 with 1 punt inside the 20. Haynes had 5 tackles and 1 sack to pace Carolina's defense. Horn had 4 tackles and a pass defense. Louisville, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Hill, 3 tackles. Gross, Matos, and Franklin each with 2 tackles. Jackson also had 2 tackles and 2 passes defense. Nick Xavier Woods, 1 tackle, 1 pass defense, and 1 interception for the Carolina Panthers. Okay, taking a look at total yards, 322 for the Bucks, 282 for the Panthers. Passing yards were 194 to 149 Tampa Bay. Rushing yards for 133, 128 Carolina. Time of possession, Carolina 33 minutes, 42 seconds. Tampa Bay 26 minutes, 18 seconds. Both teams had 15 first downs. All right. Both teams were terrible on third down. 3 of 15 for Carolina, 6 of 15 for Tampa. Fourth downs, the Panthers went 1 for 3, while the Buccaneers had no fourth down attempts. Carolina, 7 penalties, 62 yards. They were sacked 4 times for a loss of 29. No lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 8 punts. And the Buccaneers, 5 penalties for 36 yards. They were sacked once, losing 8 yards. No fumbles lost, 1 interception thrown, and they also had 8 punts. All right. Closing line in this game was Tampa Bay -4, and the over-under was 36.5. I took Tampa Bay straight up, so that makes me 7-2. And against the spread, I picked Carolina with the points, and I won that pick as well, putting me at 5-4 for the week. Okay, moving on to the Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams easily win this one over the Browns by a final of 36-19. Let's look at the individual numbers first off for the Rams. Matthew Stafford, 22 of 37, 279 with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QB rating of 110.1. Okay, Williams was the leading rusher for LA, 21 rushes, 88 yards, and a touchdown, 4.2 yards per run. Puka Nacua, 2 for 34 yards at 17 per run. Freeman, 1 rush, no yards. Matthew Stafford, 1 rush, -2 yards. Puka Nacua led LA receivers with 4 catches and 105 yards, plus a touchdown on 7 targets at 26.3 yards per catch. Robinson, 4 for 55 and a TD on 5 targets, 13.8 yards per catch. Cooper Kupp, 6 for 39 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets, 6.5 yards per catch. Tyler Higbee, 2 for 35 yards on 4 targets, 17.5 yards per catch. Williams, 3 for 24 on 5 targets, 8 yards a catch. Skowronek, 2 for 12 yards on 3 targets, 6 yards a catch. And Tutu Atwell, 1 catch, 9 yards on 2 targets. Havrizik, 2 for 3 on field goals, longest 44. Extra points are 4 for 4. Evans with 5 punts, averaging 58.6 yards, longest is 64, with 2 touchbacks and 1 punt inside the 20. All right, Jones was the leading tackler for the Rams. He had 6. Fuller had 5. Young had 4, as did Witherspoon. He also added a pass defense for the Rams D. Kendrick, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense. Aaron Donald, 2 tackles, half a sack. Brown, 2 tackles. Roseboom, 2 tackles. Reeder, 2 tackles. Johnson, 1 tackle, 2 passes defense, and an interception. And Turner, 1 tackle, 1.5 sacks for the Los Angeles Rams. Moving on to the Browns. Joe Flacco, 23 of 44, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 75.4 passer rating. He is the 4th starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns this season. Of course, you started the year with Deshaun Watson, but he's now out for the season. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, PJ Tucker, I think. And now you've got Joe Flacco. Leading rusher was Kareem Hunt, 12 for 48 yards, 4 yards per run. Strong, 2 carries, 20 yards on 10 yards per run. Ford, 9 carries, 19 yards, 2.1 yards per run. Moore was Cleveland's top receiver, 4 catches, 83 yards on 12 targets, 20.8 yards per catch. Bryant, 5 for 49 and a TD on 5 targets, 9.8 per catch. Amari Cooper, 3 for 34, 5 targets, 11.3 yards a catch. Ford, 3 for 33 and a touchdown on 3 targets, averaging 11 per catch. Tillman, 2 for 20 yards on 6 targets, 10 per catch. David Njoku, 2 for 17 yards on 6 targets, 8.5 per catch. Bell, 2 for 12 on 2 targets, 6 yards a catch. Atkins, 1 catch, 6 yards, 1 target. And Kareem Hunt, 1 catch for no gain on 1 target. Okay. Hopkins, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest was 40, and 1 for 2 on extra points. Bajorquez, 5 punts, averaging 47.2 yards, or longest is 62 with 1 touchback and 2 punts inside the 20. All right, Ford, leading tackler for the Browns with 6. Thornhill with 5 tackles. Halassi had 4 tackles. Emerson, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Delpit, 3 tackles. Taki, 2 tackles. Newsome, 2 tackles. Okronkwo, 2 tackles. Walker, 2 tackles and a pass defense. And Elliott with 2 tackles for the Browns. All right. Total yards, 399 for the Rams, 327 for the Browns. Passing and rushing yards both favored Los Angeles. 279 yards and 120 rushing for the Rams, 240 passing and 87 rushing for the Browns. Time of possession, Cleveland 34 minutes, 3 seconds. LA 25 minutes and 57 seconds. Both teams had 20 first downs in this game. Cleveland was 7 of 16 on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. LA was 4 for 12 on 3rd down and no 4th down plays. Browns had 7 penalties for 86 yards. They were sacked twice, losing 14. No fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 5 punts. The Rams also had 7 penalties for 45 yards. They were not sacked. They didn't lose a fumble. They didn't throw an interception, and they also had 5 punts. All right. Closing line was LA minus 3.5, and the over-under was 39.5. In fact, the Rams nearly got there by themselves. I won both picks as I took the Rams both straight up and against the spread, so that makes my records 8-2 straight up, 6-4 ATS. Okay, this brings us to the rematch of last season's NFC Championship game, and the San Francisco 49ers got their revenge and then some, beating up the Philadelphia Eagles 42-19. We'll look at the individual numbers first for the 49ers. Brock Purdy was efficient, 19 of 27 for 314, with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and a near perfect passer rating of 148.8. Christian McCaffrey led the San Francisco rushers with 1793 yards and a touchdown, averaging 5.5 yards per run. Deebo Samuel, 3 for 22 and a rushing touchdown on 7.3 per run. Elijah Mitchell, 3 for 13 on 4.3. Mason, 2 rushes, 10 yards on 5 per rush. Brock Purdy, 2 for 9 yards on 4.5 per rush. Sam Darnold, 1 rush, -1 yard. Okay. Deebo Samuel was the top receiver for the 49ers. 4 catches, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 4 targets at 29 yards a catch. George Kittle, 4 for 68 yards on 6 targets at 17 per catch. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 46 yards and a TD on 7 targets, 9.2 yards per catch. Jennings, 3 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 14.7 per grab. And Christian McCaffrey, 3 catches, 40 yards on 4 targets at 13.3 yards per catch. Jake Moody, no field goals attempted, and 6 for 6 on extra points. Wisnowski, 2 punts, averaging 47.5 yards, longest was 49. Thomas led San Francisco's defense with 6 tackles and 3 passes defensed. Brown with 5 tackles. Gibson with 5 tackles. Ward, 4 tackles, 4 passes defensed. Burks, 3 tackles. Fred Warner with 3 tackles. Dre Greenlaw with 2 tackles before he was ejected. Nick Bosa, 2 tackles. Javon Kinlaw, 2 tackles and 2 sacks for the 49er defense. For the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts was 26 of 45 for 298 with 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and an 85.2 passer rating. He left the game momentarily being checked for a concussion, and Marcus Mariota came in. He was 2 for 3 for 16 yards and a 79.9 passer rating. Hurts was the leading rusher for the Eagles, 7 for 20 and a touchdown on 2.9 per run. Yeah, these rushing numbers are not good. DeAndre Swift held to 6 carries, 13 yards, and 2.2 a pop. Mariota, 2 for 6 yards, 3 per pop. Kenneth Gainwell, 2 rushes, 5 yards, 2.5 per rush. Boston Scott, 1 rush, 2 yards. Leading receivers for the Eagles are A.J. Brown, 8 catches, 114 on 13 targets at 14.3 a catch. Devontae Smith, 9 for 96 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets at 10.7 per catch. Kenneth Gainwell, 5 for 42 yards on 6 targets, 8.4 yards per grab. Quez Watkins, 3 for 28 yards on 4 targets, 9.3 yards catch. Boston Scott, 1 catch, 27 yards on 1 target. And DeAndre, 2 catches, 7 yards on 6 targets at 3.5 yards a catch. Jake Elliott, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest was 39, 1 for 1 on extra points. Braden Mann, 3 punts, 50.7 yards per punt. 52 was his longest. All 3 punts inside the 20. Okay. Morrow led the Philadelphia defense. He and Darius Big Play Slay each had 5 tackles. Ellis, 4 tackles. Blankenship, 3 tackles. Hassan Reddick, 3 tackles and a sack. Kevin Byard, 2 tackles. Jalen Carter, 2 tackles. Fletcher Cox, 2 tackles and a sack. Josh Sweat had a tackle. Jordan Davis, 1 tackle and a pass defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. Total yards, San Francisco 456, Philadelphia 333. Passing yards favored the Niners, 310 to 287. Rushing yards also favored the Niners, 146 to 46. Time of possession, Philadelphia 31 minutes, 39 seconds. San Francisco 28 minutes, 21 seconds. First downs, 24 for the 49ers and 23 for the teams, over 50% on third down, 8 of 11 for the 49ers and 8 of 15 for the Eagles. San Francisco was 1 for 1 on fourth down, while Philly was 1 for 2. The Niners had 5 penalties for 47 yards. They were sacked twice, losing 4 yards. No fumbles lost or interceptions, and 2 punts. The Eagles had 7 penalties, 47 yards. They were sacked 3 times, allowing 20 yards or losing 27 yards. No fumbles lost, no interceptions thrown, and 3 punts. Closing line was San Francisco -3. Over under was 47. I went against the Eagles and I took the Niners both straight up and against the spread, won both of the picks. So that made me 9-2 in my straight up picks and 7-4 against the spread. Now to Sunday night football, where the Green Bay Packers upset the Kansas City Chiefs 27-19. We'll start with the individual numbers for the Packers. Jordan Love, 25 of 36, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Real good game from Jordan Love. Quarterback rating of 118.6. A.J. Dillon was the leading rusher for the Packers, 18 for 73 at 4 points per run. Taylor, 2 for 29, 14.5 per run. Watson, 2 for 15 on 7.5 per run. That's Christian Watson there. Jordan Love ran twice for 10 yards at 5 per pop. Robinson, 1 rush, 2 yards. Romeo Doubs was the leading receiver for the Green Bay Packers. 4 catches, 72 yards on 5 targets, 18 yards per catch. Christian Watson, 7 for 71 yards and 2 scores on 9 targets, 10.1 yards per catch. Wicks, 3 for 43 on 4 targets, 14.3 yards a catch. Kraft for 37 on 6 targets, 12.3 per catch. Reed, 4 catches, 16 yards on 5 targets, 4 yards per catch. Heath, 1 catch, 15 yards on 2 targets. A.J. Dillon, 1 catch, yards on 1 target. Sims, 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown on 1 target. Taylor was targeted once, but no catches. Robinson, 1 catch on 1 target for -2 yards. Anders Carlson, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest was 48. 3 for 3 on extra points. Whelan punted twice for 38 yards on average. This is 40, both punts inside the 20-yard line. Okay, Ballantyne was the leading tackler for the Packers. He and Owens both, they had 5 tackles apiece. Walker with 4 tackles. Darnell Savage, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Nixon, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 INT. Clark, 2 tackles, half a sack. Van Ness, 2 tackles and a sack. Smith, 1 tackle and half a sack. Ford, 1 tackle and 1 pass defense for the Packers. For Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 21 of 33, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 79.1 in his Lambeau Field debut. Leading rusher was Isaiah Pacheco, 18 for 100, down on 6.1 yards per run. Patrick Mahomes, 4 for 26, 6.5 yards per run. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 rushes, 6 yards on 3 yards per run. Kadarius Toney, 1 rush, 6 yards. Leading receivers for the Chiefs include Travis Kelce, 4 catches, 81 yards on 5 targets, 20.3 yards per catch. Rashee Rice, 8 catches, 64 yards, 9 targets, 8 yards per grab. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the former, 2 catches, 25 yards on 5 targets, at 12.5 yards per catch in his return to Green Bay. Isaiah Pacheco, 3 for 13 yards on 4 targets, 4.3 yards per catch. James, 1 catch, 12 yards, 2 targets. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1 catch, 8 yards, 2 targets. Sky Moore, 1 catch, 5 targets, or 1 catch, 5 yards on 2 targets. Sorry about that. Noah Gray, 1 catch, 2 yards, and a touchdown on 1 target. Tony and Watson were targeted once. Neither recorded a catch. All right, to special teams. Harris Butker, 2 for 2 on field goals. Longest was 34, 1 for 1 on extra points. Townsend, 1 punt, averaging 57 yards. Reed was Kansas City's leading tackler with 9. Cochran had 7 tackles. Cook, 6 tackles. Gay had 3 tackles. Dana, 3 tackles and a sack. L'Jarius Sneed, 3 tackles. Edwards, McDuffie, Connor, Tranquil, and Dickerson, each 2 tackles for the Kansas Chiefs. Okay. Total yards, 382 for the Packers and 337 for the Chiefs. All right, passing yards, 253 to 189 for Green Bay. Rushing is 148 to 129 for Kansas City. Time of possession, Packers 30 minutes, 32 seconds. Chiefs 29 minutes, 28 seconds. All right, Kansas City had 25 first downs versus Green Bay's 24. All right. Third downs, the Chiefs were 7 for 11, and the Packers were 5 for 10. So collectively, both teams were at or above 50% on third down. Fourth downs, Kansas City 0 for 1, Green Bay 1 for 1. The Chiefs had 5 penalties for 50 yards. They were sacked 3 times for 21. No lost fumbles, 1 interception, and only 1 punt. And for the Packers, 7 penalties, 63 yards. They were sacked twice for 14. No lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 2 punts. Closing line was Kansas City -6, and the over-under was 44. And they just got to that total with 46 combined points. I took the Chiefs straight up and against the spread, lost both picks. And now this brings us to Monday Night Football. This is the last game we'll be looking at. The Cincinnati Bengals, as a double dip, go in and defeat the Jaguars 34-31 in overtime. Start with the individual numbers for the Cincinnati Bengals. Jake Browning, 32 of 37, 354 yards, a touchdown and no interceptions, and a 115.5 passer rating. So he easily had his best game as a pro on Monday night. Tyler Boyd threw a pass. Unfortunately, it was an interception. He does not have a QB rating. Jamar Chase also attempted a pass for -7 yards. He had a 79.2 QB rating. Leading rusher was Joe Mixon, 19 for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 3.6 yards per run. Brown, 9 for 61 at 6 points per run. Jake Browning, 2 for 22 and a rushing touchdown, 11 yards per rush. Tyler Boyd, 1 rush for 5 yards. And how about the night Jamar Chase had catching the ball? 11 receptions for 149 and a touchdown on 12 targets. 13.5 yards per catch. Very good. Joe Mixon, 6 catches, 49 yards, 7 targets, 8.2 yards per catch. Tyler Boyd, 5 for 37 on 7 targets, 7.4 per catch. T. Higgins back in the Bengals lineup, 3 for 36 yards, 3 targets, 12 per catch. Hudson 4 for 35 on 4 targets, 8.8 yards per catch. Irwin 1 catch, 25 yards, 1 target. Wilcox 1 catch, 12 yards, 1 target. Drew Sample 1 catch, 11 yards on 1 target. Browning 1 catch, -7 yards on 1 target. Evan McPherson 2 for 3 on field goals, longest was 54. 4 for 4 on extra points. Robbins 1 punt for 33 yards, and that punt landed inside the 20-yard line. Okay. Turner led the Bengals defense with 8 tackles. Awuzie 6 tackles and a pass defense. Wilson 5 tackles and a forced fumble. Jermaine Pratt 4 tackles. Battle with 4 tackles, 1 sack, and a pass defense. And there are 2 hills on this defense. The one we're looking at right now is, hurry up, Dax Hill. Okay. Dax Hill had 4 tackles and a pass defense. Hilton, 2 tackles and a pass defense. And BJ Hill also had 2 tackles and a pass defense. Sam Hubbard, 1 tackle and 1 sack for the Bengals. For Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence started. He was 22 of 29 for 258 with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 125.4 passer rating. He would sprain his ankle and have to leave the game. He would make way for C.J. Beathard. 9 of 10 for 63 yards and a 92.9 passer rating. Travis Etienne led the Jaguars ground attack. 11 rushes, 45 yards, and a touchdown on 4.1 per rush. Trevor Lawrence, 5 rushes, 8 yards, and a touchdown on 1.6 per run. C.J. Beathard, 1 rush for 7. Calvin Ridley, 3 rushes, 7 yards, 2.3 per run. Johnson, 5 rushes, 4 yards, 0.8 yards per run. Evan Ingram, 1 rush for 2 yards. Ingram also led the Jaguars receivers. If this thing will let me get back there. There we go. Come on, stop playing around. I want to finish this. Evan Ingram led Jacksonville receivers with 9 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets at 9.1 yards per catch. Zay Jones, 5 for 78 on 8 targets, 18.6 per catch. Washington, 6 for 61 and a touchdown on 6 targets and 10.2 yards per catch. Travis Etienne, 4 tackles or 4 catches for 34 yards on 4 targets and 8.5 yards per grab. Christian Kirk, 1 catch, 26 yards and 1 target. Calvin Ridley, 4 catches for 26, 8 targets at 6.5 per catch. Farrell, 1 catch, 9 yards on 1 target. Johnson, 1 catch, 5 yards on 1 target. Jones was targeted once, didn't record a catch. Sorry if my hand gets in the way of the camera. I'm trying to scroll down to the kicking and punting. Here we go. Brandon Mc 1 for 2 on field goals. Longest was 40. And 4 for 4 on extra points. Cook, 5 punts, averaging 40.6. Longest was 40. 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Okay, Olakun and Lloyd led the Jaguars defense with 8 tackles apiece. Cisco, 6 tackles. Jenkins, 5 tackles. Williams with 5 tackles. Junior, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense. Tackles. Johnson, 4 tackles. Josh Allen, not the Bills quarterback, but the Josh Allen for the Jaguars. He had 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 pass defense, and 1 interception. Okay. Total yards 490 for Cincinnati, 376 for Jacksonville. Passing yards favored the Bengals, 335 to 305. Rush yards also favored the Bengals, 156 to 71. Time of possession nearly split down the middle, 34 minutes, 12 seconds to 34 minutes, 3 seconds for Cincinnati. First downs were 27 for the Bengals and 23 for the Jags. The Bengals finished 8 of 14 on third down, 1 of 2 on fourth down, while Jaguars were 6 of 15 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. The Bengals had 6 penalties for 35 yards. They were sacked twice for 12, no lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 1 punt. The Jaguars had 7 penalties, 55 yards. They were sacked 4 times for 16, with no fumbles lost or interceptions, and 5 punts. Closing line was Jacksonville minus 10. Under is 41. I picked Jacksonville both straight up and against the spread. So for the week, I finished 9-4 in my straight up picks, 7-6 in my AS picks. Okay, so that's it for the recaps of all the games. We can now move on to my Week 14 Power Rankings, which I just finished a few moments ago. Starting at the bottom, the Carolina Panthers, 2, the New England Patriots at number 31, and the New York Giants at number 30, all remain in the same spot as last week. The Panthers are 1-11 and officially out of the playoffs. The Patriots are 2-10, and the Giants are 4-8. New York's other team, the Jets, are at number 29. They're 4-8 as well. Moving up to number 28, despite the loss, is the Tennessee Titans at 4-8. Number 27, also moving up despite losing, were the Washington Commanders, 4-9. Up to number 26 this week are the Arizona Cardinals at 3-10. Both the Cardinals and Commanders are off this week. And then after this, all the bye weeks will be used up. Number 25, also moving up one spot, are the Chicago Bears at 4-8. No change at 24 with the Las Vegas Raiders at 5-7. No change at number 23 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also 5-7. Number 22, after a 5-point drop, the New Orleans Saints at 5-7. Down one spot despite not playing last week to number 21 are the Minnesota Vikings at 6-6. Up to number 20 are the Cincinnati Bengals, also 6-6. The Green Bay Packers at 6-6 also move up to number 19. The Los Angeles Chargers at 5-7 sit at number 18. They moved up one spot. The Denver Broncos at 6-6 fall to 17. The Seattle Seahawks at 6-6, they dropped to number 16. Both teams losing 4 spots from last week. The Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-5 are down 5 spots to number 15. Up 4 spots to number 14 are the Los Rams at 6-6. The Indianapolis Colts are up 3 spots to number 13 at 7-5. The Atlanta Falcons, sitting at 6-6, is number 12, also up 3 spots. Dropping from the top 10 down to number 11 are the Cleveland Browns at 7-5. Down 4 spots to number 10, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8-4. Number 9 up 5 spots despite not playing are the Buffalo Bills at 6-6. Back in the top 10, up 3 spots to number 8 are the Houston Texans at 7-5. Number 7, up 1 spot are the Miami Dolphins at 9-3. Number 6, also up 1 spot, are the Detroit Lions at 9-3. Dropping 2 spots to number 5 with an 8-4 record are the Kansas City Chiefs. The Philadelphia Eagles, last week's number 1, fell 3 spots to number 4. They are 10-2. So that means we got a new top 3. Number 3, up 2 spots, are the Dallas Cowboys at 9-3. Number 2, staying in the same spot, are the Baltimore Ravens at 9-3. And the San Francisco 49ers at 9-3 takes over at the top spot. So essentially, San Francisco and Philadelphia traded spots, if you will. Okay, we have one more order of business to look at. And that is the current NFL standings through week 13, the playoff standings, that is. And we'll start, as always, with the AFC. All right, the Miami Dolphins have jumped into the number 1 spot at 9-3, 3-1 versus the East, 6-2 in the conference, 401 strength of schedule, 306 strength of victory. They own the tiebreaker over Baltimore based on best win percentage in conference games. This pushes the Baltimore Ravens down to number 2. They are also 9-3. 3-2 versus the North, 6-3 in the conference, 511 strength of schedule, 481 strength of victory. In the number 3 spot are the Kansas City Chiefs at 8-3. Let me fix this, and then we'll because last week's record. All right, they should. Okay. Now everything's updated. Let's read this from the top once again. All right. So the top seed is the Miami Dolphins at 9-3, 3-1 versus the East, 6-2 in the conference, 393 strength of schedule, 303 strength of victory. They own the tiebreaker over Baltimore based on the best win percentage in conference games. That drops the Baltimore Ravens to number 2. They are also 9-3, 3-2 versus the North, and 6-3 in the AFC. 5-10 or 510 strength of schedule, 486 strength of victory. In the 3 spot, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs at 8-4, 3-1 versus the West, 6-1 in the conference, 542 strength of schedule, 490 strength of victory. Kansas City owns the tiebreaker over Jacksonville based on head-to-head win percentage. They beat the Jaguars earlier this season, way earlier this season. So the Jaguars are stuck in a spot at 8-4, 4-1 versus the 4-1 versus the South, and 6-3 in the conference. 549 strength of schedule, 510 strength of victory. All right, then you've got a 4-way tie for the 3 wild card spots in the AFC. The Steelers, Browns, Colts, and Texans all at 7-5. Okay. The Steelers are 3-1 versus the North and 5-3 in the conference, with a 531 strength of schedule and a 512 strength of victory. The Browns are 3-2 versus the North, 5-3 in the conference, 545 strength of schedule, 529 strength of victory. Indianapolis is 3-2 versus the South, 5-3 in the conference, 458 strength of schedule, 381 strength of victory. And Houston is also 7-5, 1-2 versus the South, 4-3 in the conference, 490 strength of schedule, 471 strength of victory. Let's read these tiebreakers. Pittsburgh owns the tiebreaker over Indianapolis based on best win percentage in common games. The division tiebreak was initially used to eliminate Cleveland. The Steelers own the tiebreaker over the Browns based on best win percentage in division games. The division tiebreaker was also initially used to eliminate Houston. Indianapolis has the tiebreaker over the Texans based on head-to-head win percentage. So this puts the Steelers in the number 5 spot. Then you got the Browns in the number 6 spot. They won the tiebreaker over Indianapolis based on head-to-head win percentage. The division tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate Houston. The Colts owned the tiebreaker over the Texans based on head-to-head win percentage. So this puts the Browns at 6 and the Colts at 7. And then the Texans would be that one team on the outside in 8th place. So you have a 4-way tie for the 3 wildcard spots. Next up, you've got a 3-way tie for 9th in the conference with the Broncos, Bengals, and Bills, all sitting at 6 and 6. Denver is 1 and 2 versus the West versus the conference. 5-10 strength of schedule, 5-14 strength of victory. Denver owns the tiebreaker over Cincinnati based on best win percentage in conference games, and owns the tiebreaker over Buffalo based on the head-to-head sweep. As for Cincinnati, they are 0 and 4 versus the North, 2 and 6 in the conference. 559 strength of schedule, 521 strength of victory. Cincinnati wins the tiebreaker over Buffalo based on head-to-head win percentage. So that puts Denver at number 9, Cincinnati at number 10, and Buffalo at number 11. They are 2 and 2 versus the East, 3 and 5 in the conference, 462 strength of schedule, and 425 strength of victory. All right, next up, you got a tie with the Chargers and Raiders, both 5 and 7. LA is 1 and 1 versus the West, while the Raiders are 1 and 2. The Chargers are 3 and 4 versus the AFC. Vegas is 3 and 5. LA has a 521 strength of schedule and a 350 strength of victory, while Vegas has a 486 strength of schedule and 367 strength of victory. LA wins the tiebreaker over Las Vegas based on head-to-head win percentage. So that puts the Chargers at number 12 and the Raiders at 13. Then you've got a tie with the New York Jets and Tennessee Titans, both 4 and 8. All right, the Jets are 1 and 3 versus the East, 2 and 6 in the conference, 528 strength of schedule, 542 strength of victory. The Titans are 0 and 3 versus the South, 2 and 6 in the conference, 507 strength of victory, 375 strength of, or 507 strength of schedule, and a 375 strength of victory. New York wins the tiebreaker over Tennessee based on strength of victory. And at the bottom of the AFC, the New England Patriots at 2 and 10, 2 and 2 versus the East, 2 and 5 in the conference, 531 strength of schedule, 417 strength of victory. All right, that's the AFC. Now let's jump over to the NFC. Despite the loss, the Philadelphia Eagles are still in the top spot at 10 and 2, 3 and 0 versus the East, 6 and 1 in the conference. 493 strength of schedule, 484 strength of victory. Number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers at 9 and 3, the team the Eagles lost to. 3 and 0 versus the West, 7 and 1 in the conference. 531 strength of schedule, 532 strength of victory. And then number 3 are the Detroit Lions at 9 and 3. 2 and 1 versus the North, 6 and 2 in the NFC. 458 strength of schedule, 417 strength of victory. San Francisco owns the tiebreaker over Detroit based on best win percentage in conference games. The Atlanta Falcons are sitting in the number 4 spot at 6-6. 3-0 versus the South, 4-4 in the conference, 425 strength of schedule, 389 strength of victory. All right, firmly in that number 5 spot, that's hot wild card spot, are the Dallas Cowboys at 9-3. 3-1 versus the East, 6-3 in the conference, 397 strength of schedule, 330 strength of victory. Then this brings us to the 4-way tie for the last 2 wildcard spots in the NFC, with the Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, Los Angeles Rams, and Seattle Seahawks all at 6-6. Minnesota is 2-1 versus the North, 6-3 in the conference, 479 strength of schedule, 431 strength of victory. Green Bay is 2-2 versus the North, 4-3 in the conference, 528 strength of schedule, 514 strength of victory. Los Angeles is 4-1 versus the West, 4-4 in the conference, 541 strength of schedule, 432 strength of victory. And Seattle is 1-3 versus the West, 5-4 in the conference, 500 strength of schedule, 378 strength of victory. As for the tiebreakers, Minnesota wins the tiebreaker based on best win percentage in conference games. The division tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate Seattle and Green Bay. The Rams have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks based on head-to-head win percentage. Remember, LA swept Seattle in their season series. And the Vikings have the tiebreaker over Green Bay based on head-to-head win percentage. So pretty much the same reason there. Green Bay has the tiebreaker over LA based on head-to-head win percentage. Divisional tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate Seattle. Rams own the tiebreaker over the Seahawks based on head-to-head win percentage, which is the note they have for the Rams. So we can move on to number 10. There's a 2-way tie with the Buccaneers and Saints, both at 5-7. Tampa Bay is 2-1 versus the South and 4-4 in the conference, 514 strength of schedule, 333 strength of victory. New Orleans is 1-2 versus the South, 2-5 in the conference, 451 strength of schedule, 300 strength of victory. Tampa Bay owns the tiebreaker over New Orleans based on head-to-head win percentage. All right, then you got the Giants and Bears tied for 12th at 4-8. New York is 2-2 versus the East, 3-4 versus the NFC, 476 strength of schedule, 255 strength of victory. And Chicago is 1-3 versus the North, 3-5 in the conference, 455 strength of schedule, 327 strength of victory. New York wins the tiebreaker over Chicago based on best win percentage in conference games. All right. So that puts Tampa at number 10, New Orleans 11, New York 12, and Chicago 13. As for the wild card spots, Minnesota is number 6, Green Bay is 7, LA is 8, and Seattle is 9. That brings us to number 14. That's the Washington Commanders, 4-9. 0-5 versus the East, 2-7 in the conference, 503 strength of schedule, 347 strength of victory. Number 15 is the Arizona Cardinals at 3-10. 0-4 versus the West, 2-6 in the conference, 548 strength of schedule, 611 strength of victory. And sitting at the bottom of the NFC and officially eliminated from playoff contention are the Carolina Panthers at 1-11. 0-3 versus the South, 0-8 in the conference. 535 strength of schedule, 583 strength of victory. And that is the week 13 edition of the week that was. Now, I was going to do the college football playoff standings yesterday, but I kept pushing it off. So I'll get into that here in just a moment. So stay tuned for that. And then tomorrow, I'll just work on my video for Thursday where I'll make my week 14 picks both straight up and against the spread. So make sure you join me Thursday for that. In the meantime, like and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.